Huntsman Altimor and the first wing of LFR of Shadowlands. Finally, we have access to LFR and can start analyzing what it looks like to us, to casuals, to casual crowd. It always is an exciting topic for me. Horrific visions of 8.3 have distracted me from looking at LFR as closely as I used to always look at LFR, but with Shadowlands this appeal comes back, and finally I am really excited about the fact that I'm excited. Does it make any sense? Because I wasn't excited. Okay, that's enough of excitement for now. Let's do this, let's talk about it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gyro. Yes, I'm a little bit over the top today because as I mentioned in a couple of previous videos which you may or may not have seen, look, there are systems in Shadowlands. There are lots of systems everywhere, and they don't seem to grip me, neither of them. Legendary crafting is okay, crafting generally is okay, Torghast is underwhelming, and so on and so forth. So today, without any further ado, we are looking finally at the first wing of LFR for Castle Nathria. Castle Nathria is the first raid of Shadowlands, in case you have been living completely under a rock. No problems, my friend, I don't pass any judgment, I'm just gonna help you from under there and gonna share a little bit of my, well, very semi-educated opinion of a casual player that I am, that all of us are here on this channel, hopefully. Now, Huntsman Altimor is the very first boss of LFR in Castle Nathria, and we will be talking, it's going to be a mini guide, there is not much need to make it an extensive guide. There will be a conversation about Huntsman Altimor as promised a little bit towards the second half of this video. Take a look at the table of contents as always, take a look at the timeline of the video, there are chapters there created by me for you guys. So you can, if you don't want to listen to my ranting about my impressions of LFR so far, then you could just fast forward and take a look at the boss fight. Now, what do I think about it so far? Generally, I am a big fan of Revendreth questline, campaign part that takes us through Revendreth. If you have not tried it somehow, I do not know how would you avoid it, at least on your main character, before you jumped into something like Threads of Fate. I highly recommend that you take a closer look at this. No, gothic vampires are not everyone's cup of tea, but at the same time, from what I've seen in Shadowlands so far, and tell me in the comments down below if you agree, disagree, it's a world of tastes, not everyone feels the same way, but to me, everything was fairly bland or ordinary. Bear with me, like Maldraxxus is a great storyline, but a fairly bland color scheme and decorations and everything, bones and stuff, spikes, not super cool. Ardenweald, too airy-fairy for me, literally, too airy-fairy. Bastion, gorgeous at first, this whole Greek kind of like god type of stuff going on there with winged creatures everywhere, but at the same time also not a place I would personally, as a player of these type of games, would call home. Revendreth though is awesome. Revendreth theme is awesome, and that theme continues through Castle Nathria, that's my point. As far as looking at how do we enter the raid, so obviously I only raid LFR, so I've only seen right now the first wing. I've seen all three bosses, and there will be videos talking about all three bosses, by the way, talking about them, with a lot less of a upfront chat that we're having right now, and more on the boss, in case you need to know. To me, this looks very Revendreth-y. It's a gothic castle that we're breaching through the kennels. We're breaching through the sewers and the kennels, and that's what leads us into the area where Huntsman Altimor has his beasts. Yeah. What does it, like, setting? Again, setting is awesome. It still feels rather fresh to me as well, which is part of what contributes to my excitement. I'm actually quite excited because of how fresh it is. Maybe not because of its particular originality. Like, I'm not trying to say that Castle Nathria is super original, or this particular area of Castle Nathria looks super original or super inspiring or whatever. It's possibly not, but it's new and it's cool. It's cool, so I can work with that. Now, as far as the boss fight is concerned itself, before we jump into the boss, before we're about to pull the boss here, I will just make a very quick kind of flashback trip down the memory lane for you guys and girls, especially if you have not played BFA somehow, if you have not played previous expansion. Previous bosses, previous wings of LFR in BFA, you know, the ones that we had, the ones that started, the first boss was Rathian, the big dragon. I personally, even before we start looking closer at this fight that's about to unfold here, I would say that I enjoyed, from enjoyment perspective and from the first initial wow perspective, I enjoyed the fight with Rathian more than this. More than this. I'm not gonna say that Huntsman Altimor is an underwhelming fight. There is a lot going on and requires some consideration from the players, some personal responsibility, you know, and not like Rathian was very complex either, but you needed to look where to go and where to disengage and not to explode everyone and run out of the fire. In this particular case, the fight starts and I'll let you be the judge, yeah? Huntsman Altimor is there, he's arranged, but he can fight in melee naturally, as all bosses do, and he has pets, as you would expect a huntsman to have. First one is Margrave, or whatever, Margot. So Margot is just a pet, and as you would do with ads in any encounter, almost any encounter of World of Warcraft, you need to focus Margot. I do not know, I was looking closely as a person who's been here for the very first time, who is exploring it as much as a lot of us casuals do. I was looking at what people were suggesting in the chat window, and somebody just basically said, look, focus Margot, that's about it. So the first pet goes down fairly easily. You need to kill that. They refer to it as a dog, but I don't think it's a dog. It's more like a bear to me. By the way, I love the armor. I don't know if those types of pets are tameable, and if you can tame them at some point, maybe coming back into this raid, but my hunter, whenever my hunter enters this stage of Shadowlands, as an alt, I definitely would be looking to tame something like that. The decoration, the armor on those beasts is just fantastic. So Margot gets focused and Margot goes down. Naturally, when when he goes down, basically another pet is being summoned, Barghast. Now Barghast, as far as I have understood, at the very least from people who are obviously more experienced than I am, from being part of the fight, looks like Margot needs to be tanked separately. Barghast needs to be tanked separately from Huntsman Altimor. The distance matters there. And what Barghast is going to start doing is Barghast is going to start creating a shadow of himself. That shadow needs to be focused ASAP, shade of Barghast, and that shade needs to be killed ASAP. Otherwise, I assume it does AoE damage onto the raid, which would not surprise anyone. That's how a lot of ads work, especially in the raid environment. Again, Shade doesn't have all that much, because I don't think our DPS in this LFR raid full of people in barely meeting the eye level criteria requirements, I don't think our DPS was through the roof. It was okay, and Shade goes down pretty fast. So Shade is dangerous, needs to be killed very, very quickly. Then you switch back to Barghast, and once again you kill the gorgeously armored beast. You try to get rid of that. What happens in this particular frame with the tank? I think the tank has the most boring job of them all. I could be wrong, and no, I don't know what those marching shadows of presumably tanks do. Possibly something when they reach the tank, whatever. So we will have to possibly take a look from a tanking perspective. So I imagine that once I'm more proficient, once I feel like I can talk a lot more educated, rather than these early impressions and quick kind of intro guide onto the boss, I will be talking to you a little bit more about the tanking perspective of this fight. So that is something to look forward to. But looks like Barghast spawns this shade that looks like a representation of our tank, and then it starts marching to the tank. Something I assume happens when it reaches the tank. So if you know, please don't be shy. I am certainly cool to get your input. So let me know in the comments down below what actually happens, so that people know. Final pet of Huntsman Altimor is Hecutis. Now Hecutis is also an armored beast naturally, and I think somebody says in the comments, in the chat window, that Hecutis needs to be held close to the tank for some reason, close to the boss. That may or may not be the case, yet to be confirmed, but I'm just sharing it. As we say, you know, sometimes in where I'm from, we say, I'm selling it for what I bought it for. So what it means is that that's the best information I have right now. I'm quite excited that there is some content that I want to engage with. Hopefully you do too. So I'm kind of telling you what I know about that. personally. So Hicutis, in our case, was tanked actually separately from the boss. So our tank was not on top of Hicutis, but someone several times called out in the chat that they need to tank them together. And what Hicutis does, Hicutis lets out that petrifying howl and leaves these, I assume, AoE creating patches of ground on the ground. Yeah, so you just need to not stand there, and once again you focus Hicutis while the boss keeps being preoccupied, and Hicutis goes down, and then you can finally focus on the boss and just hammer the boss. In LFR, unsurprisingly, I cannot imagine that anyone watching this video would have never done any of LFR and doesn't know particulars of any LFR in Shadowlands, before Shadowlands, after Shadowlands, doesn't matter. But LFR is usually basic, down to real basics. So we usually just have bare bones mechanics that resemble something from normal, resemble something from heroic, make us casuals feel like we're still raiding and seeing content and kind of just, you know, punching this punching bag of a boss. But at the same time, it is silly to expect anything advanced. So Huntsman Altimor will go down without too much of a trouble, honestly. I cannot imagine many LFR groups having too much trouble with Huntsman Altimor. Now, this is my luck for you when the loot is shown, this is my luck for you in action. I am genuinely not very lucky with drops, me personally, so sometimes I'm at the mercy of other people sharing their loot with me. Let me know if you are one of those lucky ones, or if you're like me, I basically never get anything, you know, at least it feels that way. And it looks like legendary powers are fairly plentiful in different types of content, and naturally, because that's probably one of the actually exciting things that can drop somewhere, even Torghast, even as much as I hate that Torghast doesn't have loot, and I believe it needs to have loot in it, the legendary powers can drop from the end boss of Torghast. I just got one today for my Protection Paladin. I'll talk to you about that in a different video. But in this case, as you just saw in kind of the list of what people got, not me, there are heaps of the legendary powers dropping. I actually am going to say I am a fan of the fact that they recognize that they have very limited and very funneled methods of gearing, and a major part of this gearing is the process of obtaining of those legendary powers, right? So because of that, I like that they weren't too stingy on the chance of anyone to get those powers. I like that it looks reasonably generous. It looks to me like legendary powers, at least in LFR, I don't know, maybe have like a 5% chance drop, maybe 10 even. That's what it looked like, because quite a few people in the raid got it. And from here we would be going towards Hungering Destroyer, who we'll talk about in a separate video, and I will try and make it less ranty. Unless you enjoy it, let me know if you enjoy my overall overarching opinions anyway, so that I don't feel too self-conscious and so that I can keep talking to you about how my perception of this LFR wing and going forward through the whole raid, how does it evolve, if at all, if it does. Hungering Destroyer, as a very quick preview here for you, is actually a very interesting fight. It's a very interesting fight with a very unique mechanic where everyone needs to kind of pay attention, at least to someone shouting out to them the instructions in the chat window. With that, we're gonna wrap up. So that was my very quick overview of Huntsman Altimor, the first boss of the first raid of LFR in Shadowlands, which I overall enjoyed. I am just enjoying the fact that there is some content that is enjoyable, but at the same time, is it the best ever boss I've ever seen? Is it the best ever looking raid I've ever seen? No, it's not. It absolutely is not. But, you know, it's something new, it's something to engage in, it's absolutely nothing to sneeze at. And that's my opinion. Please share yours with me in the comments down below, and I'll be speaking with you very soon, very shortly, in a couple of days' time, once again, about something World of Warcraft related. See you later. Bye-bye.